none of us can do it by themselves. We are too busy doing research and trying to get our research published, but getting together and trying to jointly maybe get closer to implementation in politics and policy, I think that's a worthwhile goal and might be feasible.
This year we are hosting the 4th edition of our workshop on field experiments in economics and business here at the TUM Campus in Heilbronn. We had a record number of paper submissions. This allows us to present a fantastic program at the research frontier of the field.
What really drives my economic research these days is to try to make human decision-making as we model it and as we test it more human. In this project, I'm particularly interested in how employers might be able to design their workplaces better so that people who have anxiety or depression are not adversely affected but can shine and can bring their talent to the table and be happy with it.
As economists, we usually think about information gathering as sort of an instrumental feat. I want to know more so I can act better. We ran a survey experiment in Israel and in Jordan to look at people's willingness to read news about the ongoing war in Gaza. And what we find is that people much prefer to read about victims from their own in-group. They avoid reading about out-group casualties. In fact, people who are willing to pay more to read news that they know will make them feel bad. What's pushing this difference is basically a social identity issue.
Together with a large food company, we run a field experiment in the United States with over 235,000 customers, testing the impact of climate labels on meal choices. So we find that the labels do cause a small reduction in carbon footprints overall, but that there is significant backlash among some populations who are opposed to taking action on climate change. So among those customers, they actually increase their carbon footprint and increase their consumption of beef meals in response to the labels.
In our context, we're studying efforts to establish a citizen registry. We ask in our study whether information that we provide to these government officials shapes their willingness to engage in this sort of task and the completion of this task. It's important to engage in the field, both collecting data and running experiments, for at least 2 reasons. One is that a variable like beliefs is not easily observed in archival records. People don't leave notes about what they believed at a particular time. And finally, if we want to observe real stakes outcomes, then actually observing this behavior by the actors who matter, these government officials, requires engagement in the field.
I study the street vending market, which is a really common but yet understudied market in developing countries especially, but also a very common setting in urban cities like New York. What I study there is the prevalence of street vendors, including children, which is a common subset in developing countries. What I design is a field experiment where I work with both child vendors and adult vendors and ensure that they're selling the exact same goods. What I see happening in this market is that all else equal, buyers buy twice as more from children compared to adults. And that's the crux of the paper, to show that strategically supply side, which are sellers, understand that buyers have these pro-social motives and they target strategically and price discriminate against women and couples.
In my field experiment, I basically look at gender differences in negotiation outcomes and whether discrimination is a potential cause for that. I post job advertisements on a classified ads platform on the internet. I negotiate prices with people who react to these, and I randomly vary whether it's a female or a male. I find that females are significantly less likely to succeed in their negotiations, so they receive a counteroffer less often than men do, unless they justify why they negotiate, unless they provide a reason for why they want a better deal, basically.